Over 400 years ago, a samurai discovered the secret to building a completely unshakable life. And he didn't use self-help, therapy, or coaching. He used something you can apply today. Miyamoto Musashi never lost a fight. 61 battles, 61 victories. But here's what no one tells you. His true secret wasn't in his sword. No, Musashi didn't have a special blade forged by magical beings. In fact, the secret lay in something much deeper, something he called Chino Maki, the Book of Earth. While everyone focuses on his combat techniques, his deadly blows, and his war strategies, there is a hidden knowledge he left written down, a system for building a mental foundation so solid that nothing, and I mean nothing, can knock you down. Do you know why most people live in constant anxiety? Why they feel like they're always walking on quicksand? Why every small crisis turns into a personal catastrophe? It's because they've never learned what Musashi discovered: how to build unshakable inner foundations. And look, this isn't cheap self-help talk. This is pure science, applied for centuries by warriors who literally staked their lives on it. Of course, these samurai didn't know these techniques had scientific basis, or that there were technical names for them, especially since those names hadn't been invented yet. But these were techniques and wisdom they applied to their lives and battles, which made them victorious, just like Musashi himself. But before I reveal this ancient secret, you need to understand something about the human mind that will shock you. Think about it this way. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have a natural inner calm? While everyone else is freaking out about everyday problems, they remain centered, focused, almost unshakable. Many people think this type of person doesn't care about anything, but quite the opposite. They do care deeply. But they've learned to develop techniques and mental structures that allow them to stay centered, even in the midst of various problems. So the secret isn't not caring about anything. The secret is mental structure. Musashi discovered that our minds work exactly like buildings, and just as you can't build a 30-story building without a solid foundation, you can't build an extraordinary life without the right mental foundations. In the Book of Earth, Chino Maki, the first book of the famous 5 rings, he reveals that most people fail in life for the same reasons a warrior dies in combat: weak foundation, unstable mental structure, and lack of understanding of fundamental principles. But here's where it gets interesting. Musashi wasn't just a fighter. He was a strategist who deeply studied human nature, and he realized something that modern neuroscience has only recently confirmed. Our brains need stable anchors to function at peak performance. When you don't have these anchors, these internal foundations, any external turbulence becomes a personal tsunami. A negative comment knocks you down. A criticism at work paralyzes you. A relationship ending destroys you for months. But when you have solid foundations, you become literally unbreakable. And this brings us to the first deadly secret that Musashi teaches in Chino Maki, the principle of the earth as the basis for everything. Musashi chose earth as the symbol of the first book for a very specific reason. Earth is solid, reliable, and stable. If Earth were a person, you wouldn't see her changing moods. She wouldn't have good days and bad days either. She would be centered, solid, and steady. And here's the genius. He realized that to live an extraordinary life, you need to develop earthy qualities in your personality. But be careful. I'm not talking about being super rigid or inflexible. I'm talking about something much more subtle and powerful. I'll give you a practical example that will open your mind. Imagine 2 people facing the same crisis, say losing their job. The first person panics, despairs, spends sleepless nights, bombards friends' cell phones with desperate messages, and becomes paralyzed with anxiety. The second person takes a deep breath, analyzes the situation, makes a plan, and begins to execute. What is the fundamental difference between them? The first built her identity on quicksand, her job, the approval of others, and external security. When these things crumble, so does she. The second built on solid ground, on internal principles, on self-knowledge, on genuine confidence in one's own abilities. When the external world shakes, one remains centered. There's another detail that will change your perspective completely. Musashi discovered that there are 4 fundamental pillars that form this earthy foundation in any person. And when you master these 4 pillars, you become practically invincible in the face of life's adversities. First pillar, the path of personal mastery. Musashi didn't see the sword as just a weapon. For him, it was an extension of his own soul. He developed what we now call a growth mindset, 5 centuries before modern psychologists discovered the concept. Here's the powerful insight. When you stop seeing your skills as fixed and start seeing them as muscles that can be developed, you completely change your relationship with failure, with challenges, with life. The ordinary person says, "I'm no good at this." The person with the Musashi mentality says, "I'm still no good at this." This small shift in language changes everything, because when you have a clear path to personal development, when you're constantly evolving your capabilities, you develop unshakable confidence. Not an ego-based arrogance, but a solid confidence based on concrete evidence of your own growth. But that's just the first pillar. The second will show you why most people live in constant internal conflict and how Musashi resolved it once and for all. Second pillar, the school of 2 worlds, Nito Ryu. This is where Musashi became truly brilliant. He created a fighting system using 2 swords simultaneously, a long one and a short one. Everyone thought it was crazy. How could someone be effective dividing their attention between 2 weapons? But the genius wasn't in the fighting technique, it was in the philosophy behind it. Musashi realized that life requires you to be able to deal with multiple realities simultaneously. You need to be rational and emotional, strong and flexible, confident and humble. Most people become fragmented trying to balance these dualities. They think, I'm either a rational person or an emotional person. I'm either strong or sensitive. I either trust myself or listen to others. But Musashi discovered that true mastery lies in integrating apparent opposites, in being 100% yourself while remaining 100% adaptable to whatever the situation demands. I'll give you a practical example that will make this clear. Imagine 2 people facing the same crisis, say losing their job. The first person panics, despairs, spends sleepless nights, bombards friends' cell phones with desperate messages, and becomes paralyzed with anxiety. The second person takes a deep breath, analyzes the situation, makes a plan, and begins to execute. What is the fundamental difference between them? The first built her identity on quicksand, her job, the approval of others, and external security. When these things crumble, so does she. The second built on solid ground, on internal principles, on self-knowledge, on genuine confidence in one's own abilities. When the external world shakes, one remains centered. There's another detail that will change your perspective completely. Musashi discovered that there are 4 fundamental pillars that form this earthy foundation in any person. And when you master these 4 pillars, you become practically invincible in the face of life's adversities. First pillar, the path of personal mastery. Musashi didn't see the sword as just a weapon. For him, it was an extension of his own soul. He developed what we now call a growth mindset, 5 centuries before modern psychologists discovered the concept. Here's the powerful insight. When you stop seeing your skills as fixed and start seeing them as muscles that can be developed, you completely change your relationship with failure, with challenges, with life. The ordinary person says, "I'm no good at this." The person with the Musashi mentality says, "I'm still no good at this." This small shift in language changes everything, because when you have a clear path to personal development, when you're constantly evolving your capabilities, you develop unshakable confidence, not an ego-based arrogance, but a solid confidence based on concrete evidence of your own growth. But that's just the first pillar. The second will show you why most people live in constant internal conflict and how Musashi resolved it once and for all. Second pillar.
It's not opportunity. It's the ability to maintain internal standards of excellence regardless of external variations. Extraordinary people have developed what I call a psychological immune system. They are unaffected by environmental negativity. And a trauma psychologist who has worked with survivors of extreme situations for 20 years discovered something fascinating. People who recover most quickly and completely from trauma have one thing in common. They have an identity that doesn't depend on external circumstances. They know who they are regardless of what happens to them. In other words, modern science is confirming what Musashi taught 400 years ago in the Chino Maki. Now back to the pillars. Fourth pillar, the foundation for all other dimensions. Here we come to the most profound and transformative pillar of all. Musashi structured his knowledge into 5 books: Earth, Water, Fire, Wind, and Void. But he made it very clear, without mastering Earth first, the other elements become useless or even dangerous. Think of it this way. You can learn all the seduction techniques in the world, but if you don't have a solid foundation of self-esteem, you'll attract toxic relationships. You can learn all the business strategies in the world, but if you don't have a stable internal foundation, you'll make emotional decisions that will destroy everything you've built. Musashi realized that there is a hierarchy in human development, and those who try to skip steps always end up falling apart. But when you build the solid groundwork first, something magical happens. You become able to access and apply much more advanced knowledge without losing yourself in the process. It's like the difference between a building built on solid rock and a house of cards. Both may look impressive from afar, but only one can withstand real storms. Now, you might be wondering, okay, this is all fascinating, but how do I apply it in practice? Musashi wasn't a theoretical philosopher. He was a pragmatist who tested everything in real life. So he developed a specific system for building these earthly foundations. The system has 3 phases, and each phase has specific practices that you can implement immediately. The first phase is what Musashi called knowing yourself as you know your own sword. A warrior must know precisely the range, weight, and balance of his weapon. Any doubt can be fatal in combat. Likewise, you must map your own capabilities, limits, patterns, and reactions with scientific precision. Here are the concrete practices. Practice 1, Standards Audit. For a week, observe and record your automatic reactions in 3 situations: conflicts, important decisions, and moments of pressure. Don't judge, just document. You'll discover patterns you didn't even know you had. Practice 2, Resource Inventory. List your real skills, not what you wish you had, but what you're actually good at, your non-negotiable values, and your sources of mental energy. This will be your personal arsenal. Practice 3, Identifying False Foundations. Identify where you've built your self-esteem on external bases: approval from others, material possessions, social status. These are your critical vulnerabilities. The second phase is to establish internal reference points that remain stable even when everything is chaotic. Practice 4, developing the inner compass. Define 3 inviolable personal principles, values by which you will make decisions regardless of external pressure. Musashi had his, you need to discover yours. Practice 5, centering rituals. Develop a 10-minute daily routine that reconnects you with your foundations. This could be meditation, journaling, exercise, or reading. The important thing is consistency, not specific technique. Practice 6, duality training. Once a week, consciously practice balancing opposites, being firm and compassionate in the same conversation, being confident and curious in the same situation, being focused and flexible in the same project. The third phase is where you test your foundations in real life and constantly refine them. Practice 7, gradual exposure. Deliberately place yourself in situations that challenge your inner stability, starting small and gradually increasing. Observe how your foundations behave under real pressure. Practice 8, post-turbulence analysis. After each challenging situation, debrief. Which foundations remain solid? Which need strengthening? What new insights did you gain about yourself? But here's something that will completely mess with your head. Musashi wrote Chino Maki when he was over 60 after decades of combat and experience. But recent studies by Japanese historians have uncovered something surprising in his personal writings. He developed and tested these principles not only in combat, but in absolutely every area of life. Business, relationships, art, spirituality, everything. And here's the part that will blow your mind. The same principles that made him invincible in combat transformed him into one of Japan's most respected artists. The same foundations that made him a brilliant military strategist made him a master of calligraphy, painting, and sculpture. This means that when you master the principles of Chino Maki, you don't just improve one area of your life, you elevate everything simultaneously. Why? Because you're not applying superficial techniques, you're restructuring the foundations of your own existence. So let me ask you one final question. How many times have you felt like you were building sandcastles? How many times have you worked hard to achieve something only for it to crumble at the first storm? How many times have you felt lost, directionless, as if you were walking in quicksand? Musashi offers an alternative, a way of living where you become the solid rock in the midst of the hurricane. Where others see crisis, you see opportunity. Where others feel panic, you feel clarity. Where others crumble, you remain whole. It's not about being invulnerable, it's about being unshakable. And the difference between these two things can completely transform the course of your life. The secret isn't avoiding storms. The secret is building foundations so solid you can dance in the rain while others run for cover. Miyamoto Musashi discovered this 400 years ago. The question remains, how much longer will you wait to apply this wisdom to your own life? The earth is waiting for you to build upon it. The only question is, are you ready to begin?